Ipsos polling exclusively for Global News shows 88% of Canadians say they will either change or cancel their plans for celebrating the holidays. That's up 5 points from last month. Of those, 54% say they will reduce their contacts or account for social distancing in their holiday plans, while 34% say they're canceling their plans altogether. But 11% say they're going ahead with the holiday plans as scheduled. Of those, one group stands out at 21%. Those aged 18 to 34 are more likely than any other group to say they won't alter their holiday plans.
If I could start off with asking you to give me a brief overview of what you sort of found with this new polling.
Well, it looks like Christmas and New Year's 2020 is going to be the Grinch's dream. It looks like everybody's basically canceling what they were doing, and if not canceling what they're doing, probably thinking about modifying how they celebrate the holiday season.
When you say modify, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about more social distancing?
When we're looking at modifying, people are looking at modifying the number of people that they come into contact with, but also at potentially social distancing, even at family gatherings. So Christmas 2020 is going to be like no Christmas we've ever had before.
For the most part, you'd say Canadians are heeding public health advice. And from the poll, at least 54% say to reduce their contacts during their holiday plans.
Yeah, the thing about public health advice is that people treat it almost like an emergency broadcast, or like particularly an emergency weather broadcast. They modify their clothing, they modify their behavior, depending on what they're thinking is going to be happening with the weather. That's what's happening with the COVID crisis. People are modifying the way that they dress, the way that they come into contact with people, and they're obviously modifying events at which they get together. Not just Christmas, New Year's, but even birthdays. People are saying that they're going to celebrate them in very different ways this year.
10% of Canadians will go ahead with their holiday plans. And so how significant is this number?
Well, 1 in 10, when you take into account 38 million Canadians, 3.8 million Canadians, and cut that down because we're only interviewing adults in the survey, so cut it down by a little bit. It's a significant number of people. If they're clustered in a very specific spot or they come into contact, disproportionately among that group, it could cause problems going forward. But what's really interesting to me is that it's only 10%. So we keep hearing these reports about how people are really, rejecting public health advice. They're protesting in significant ways. Yeah, there are. I mean, there are people who are doing those things, but the vast majority of the population's basically following the advice that they've been given.
A significant proportion of that is of, I'd say, adolescents age maybe 18 to 34, and that's sort of a recurring trend I saw in the factum as well, is that they're less likely to adhere or to modify or to cancel their plans in that age group specifically.
Everything that we see in the research, and we've asked a lot of things about how different groups of the population are behaving through this crisis. And what we're finding is that the group that is having the hardest time following public health advice and really feeling like their life is being significantly affected by what's going on with COVID are younger people. Not only are they more likely to say that they're still going to be trying to find a way to gather, but they're also the ones that are reporting the highest mental health effects. The most difficult mental health effects as a result of being asked to not gather with their friends. So people who are, going through these types of changes when it comes to school, they're going through it in terms of their social lives, dating, everything else. It's really having a very significant impact on their lives, and they're frankly tired of what's going on. And you're starting to see to the extent that the leaks are starting to find their way into how the population feels about what they're being asked to do, it tends to be disproportionately among younger people.
New Year's Eve plans, 9 out of 10 Canadians say they're going to modify or cancel. I'm thinking that this is in the same regards as modifying or canceling their Christmas plans as well.
Right. I think New Year's Eve is one of those celebrations that people tended to go out an awful lot. It was the sort of thing that you went out to celebrate. So the fact that there's probably going to be very few places in which people can do that is probably having one impact on this. But the other thing is just as we've seen with every other commemoration or celebration, people are just pulling back. They're taking a year off, and we're going to see the same thing for New Year's Eve.